Once upon a time, there were two best friends. One of them had a computer and the other one sucked.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Villains. My name is Tokyo. I'm joined today by Q, better known as Young Queasy.
Just said Young Queef.
Right, I'm joined by Q, better known as Young Queef. And today, we're doing something a little different. So as you can see on the screen here, I got all of the heroes from Dota 2 pulled up. What are we doing today, Tokyo? I'm glad you asked, Queef. So today, we're going to be talking about Dota lore. But there's a twist. What's the twist, Tokyo? I'm glad you asked, Young Queasy. We're going to be talking about Dota lore, but I haven't read up on Dota lore in like 5 fucking years. So I'm going to do this shit straight from memory, and you're just going to ask me whatever the fuck you want about the Dota game.
Sure you don't want to just ask the questions to yourself the whole time?
Excellent question, Young Queef. I don't know why I had this like deep desire and urge to call you Queen William.
Queen William?
Queen William?
Yeah.
It just sounds like a good band name. I'm on it.
It's pretty close to Quillen.
Damn. You right. Okay. So I can actually ask myself the questions, but that I mean that's up to you. I feel like the interaction part of it, you know. It's an interactive experience for the people.
Well, I've been in your tub. And as a member of the tub club, I can tell you that an interaction with another person is really enjoyable. I miss it greatly. But enough about me.
Oh. All right, that's classic. That's solid. Okay. Let's look at the heroes. You know what? Here, I'll start with the general lore. Okay.
Okay.
General lore of Dota. All right. You gotta follow along. You ready? This is some Harvard level shit that we're about to get into. Okay. So, once upon a time in Dota land. All right.
Is there a name of the world?
Yes. Once upon a time, there was this thing called the primordial mind. Okay? And the primordial mind was made up of basically everything that kind of exists in the universe. It was made up, I think, of a bunch of the fundamentals, which are things. They're things. We'll get into those.
Higgs boson things, or?
Yeah, actually, literally, kind of. It's kind of the primordial mind is, to my knowledge, the Big Bang.
Okay.
But there were two elements to the primordial mind, in particular, that didn't really get along with each other, and they were basically embodiments of kind of chaos and destruction and freedom. And the other one was the embodiment of like law and order and creation.
Okay.
For whatever reason, those two things did not get along at all. So they were constantly bickering and constantly fighting. And apparently they were incredibly powerful entities. I'm not really sure. So yeah.
Entities within the mind, or they're the two aspects of the mind?
Yeah, it's like the two aspects of the mind. It's basically, I think it's supposed to be a left brain, right brain thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think. Anyway, there's a third part of the mind, okay? And his name is fucking Arc Warden. Why is he named Arc Warden? Well, the Warden part makes sense. I don't know what that has to do with arcing or anything. Maybe he's the communication between the minds. Basically...
Like the corpus callosum?
Wow. Okay, yeah, whatever that is. That sounds like a dead thing, but sure.
No,
No,
it's okay. I'm
You
not
sure-
going to explain
you sure?
anatomy. No, it's good. This
Because
is not an anatomy course.
you went into some detail about my tub and the tub club, so...
It's all right. Next meeting at the Tub Club, I'll have a discussion about that.
So Arc Warden, he basically got sick of these two entities fighting, and he trapped them in a moon together, because that's what you do. When two kids are fighting, you put them in timeout together, right?
Yeah, they won't fight in time out at all.
No. They'll be quiet, and they'll learn to get along. So he trapped them in a moon, which came to be known as the Mad Moon, primarily on account of the two godlike beings that were trapped inside of it, kind of seeking eternal conflict. I think the reason that he trapped them inside of a moon...
Wait,
Yeah.
the two parts of the minds are the gods, or there's additional gods?
There's additional gods, but the two parts of the minds are the ancients. So you know this, the game of Dota 2 is Defense of the Ancients 2. And...
So there's the mind... Okay, I'm just trying to get the timeline right here.
Alright, okay.
There's the mind.
Yeah.
It has two aspects,
Uh-huh.
plus the Arc Warden.
Pretty much. And
Okay.
some other things. But the two main aspects we're focusing on are the embodiment of law, order, and creation, and the embodiment of chaos, destruction, and freedom.
And then in addition to that, there are things outside of the mind.
I think they were technically, at a point, a part of the mind.
Okay.
So part of the reason I think that Arc Warden trapped them in the Mad Moon was basically they're like infighting with each other, was causing problems with the rest of the primordial mind.
Okay.
This included beings such as, theoretically, Keeper of the Light, and Chaos Knight, and Enigma, and Io.
Okay.
Each of these creatures kind of has a purpose for being. Chaos Knight being the actual depiction of chaos. But he has something to do with the dimensional planes, and that's kind of his thing, is if there were to be a multiverse, Chaos Knight's kind of in charge of that. So the whole chaos theory thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chaos Knight. Yeah, you get it. Io is essentially the Higgs boson.
Okay.
More accurately, he is magic. That is not to say that he has magic. That is to say he is magic. He's like the element of magic.
Okay.
Keeper of the Light is light. I never really understood that one, why he's one of the fundamental forces. But he's light. And Enigma is gravity. So as everybody knows from their physics course in college, that's all the basic elements of reality. Is multidimensionalism, magic, light, and gravity.
I mean, if light is... I mean, it's electromagnetic radiation. Does it have electromagnetic pole? No, because it's just the radiation.
Right.
Okay. Anyways, so he traps them in the moon.
So he traps them in the moon. And this does a couple things. One, it keeps the two of them separated from everyone else so they can stop being a bunch of assholes. Because both of them have a significant amount of influence that they can exert on creatures around them, specifically the other aspects of the primordial mind. And that's bad. They want to fight, but they're rocks. You know, they're basically made of rocks. So they don't have any arms to fight. Like, I must fight, but I have no arms. So they make other people fight for them. So Arc Warden did the responsible thing and locked the two of them away, for some reason together, in the Mad Moon.
Okay.
Then, all the other elements of the primordial mind, while Arc Warden wasn't fucking looking, decided to fuck right the fuck off. We don't know why Io did, because he's the embodiment of magic, but he just, like, goes around doing stuff now. Like, he really doesn't have any reason In fact, if I recall, his lore specifically states nobody fucking knows why he does what he does, or what he really is. He just kind of goes around, and specifically where there's battlefields and shit, he'll like pick a side for some reason. I don't know. But Keeper of the Light specifically fucked off to piss off Chaos Knight. The two of them are essentially kind of mirror images of the Ancients. And Keeper of the Light is like this old jovial man who just really wants to piss off Chaos Knight because he thinks it's fucking hilarious. And Chaos Knight's like this really angry old man who does not want Keeper of the Light to piss him off because he does not think it is hilarious. So Keeper of the Light just hops around, and Chaos Knight decided he was going to go on a multi-universal journey to literally kick his ass. And then that is the entirety of those two's lore. As far as Enigma goes, he is also kind of like Io, in which people are like, we don't know why he's doing what he does. He seems to be an evil entity at that. Specifically, I remember I read a comic back in like 2015, I think, when like an item came out, and he was basically tricking people into thinking he was a demon. But he was doing it with books that were like journals that were like, if you can summon Enigma, you can control him using this theoretical device. So all these alchemists and shit would go around and they would make these devices. They would summon him and he would be like, yeah, I wrote that book. You can't control me with that, but it's a really nice artifact. Thanks for that. And then he kills him and he takes the things that they made. So he's like a trickstery god, but also just kind of a dick. Anywho, so the Mad Moon, right? It orbits the planet that Dota takes place on, which totally has a name that I don't fucking remember at this point.
Okay.
And the two
Carl.
Let's call it. Well, actually, there's a character in the game called Carl. You think I'm joking? But that's fucking Invoker's name.
Let's call it Walt.
All right, we'll call it Walt. So the Mad Moon's going around Walt, you know, and essentially the hatred between the Ancient and the Dire, the two aspects of the primordial minds, get
The Radiant and the Dire, or the Ancient and the Dire?
Sorry, the Radiant and the Dire, the Ancients.
Yep.
The hatred between the Ancients grows so strong that the moon explodes.
Okay.
And it causes shards of the moon to fall to the planet. So previously I had said that the Ancients were rocks. That wasn't necessarily true up until this very moment. The reason that, you know, the structures and what you're trying to destroy are buildings, they're actually shards of the moon that exploded.
Got it.
So these shards, now released into the world, are trying to gather influence from the creatures that interact with them, and start a war against the other shards. You know, the Radiant wants to kill the Ancient, or the Dire shards, and the Dire shards wants to kill the Radiant shards, so that the memory of one of the beings can be wiped out completely, and there can finally be peace. One of them can be right, so to speak. You know, what's better, order or chaos? What's better, creation or destruction? So on and so forth. It's worth noting that neither of them are particularly good. A lot of people see the Ancient and they're just like, oh, that's light and that's the good side, and Dire, it's all evil and it's dark and the trees are wilting and that's the bad side. Not necessarily true. It's kind of like the Radiant really thinks that like will is a bad thing, and it wants to take away free will. So whereas it is about beauty and creation, it's also about complete control and no freedom. Dire is the opposite. It's about like rebellion and chaos and destruction. So there's some bad things there as well, but it's not all bad kind of thing. They're both pretty fucked up in the head. And that comes from a couple thousand years of living in a moon with the person you hate the most. So that's that. And I think that's all of the heroes that are tied in with the like origin story lore. I think.
Okay.
I'm gonna call that a solid I think. 9 out of 10, I think. So what? You got any questions about any heroes in particular?
Of like that have been introduced so far?
Or outside of that realm. We're caught up to present day. The two shards essentially are on the planet, and they're about to go to war, and they're exerting their influence over these here heroes, all these things you see on your screen, and that's what's going to be the battle of the ancients.
Gotcha. Where do the creeps come from?
Right. Okay. So the creeps are the locals. It was kind of shown in like an introductory comic a long time ago, like when Dota 2 first fucking came out, talking a long time ago, that they were humans that were essentially twisted by the ancients to look like these weird woodland or orcish kind of creatures.
Yeah.
However, other comics that have come out seem to show that those races of creatures might just exist. And they're not totally brainwashed yet. But the creeps they're like the small villages and tribes that just lived near where the ancients crashed.
And neutral creeps are just animals?
Yeah, okay, so there's a lot of interesting lore about neutral creeps. Not really, not for most of them. Most of them are just animals, in one form or another. You could call them just animals, but like the centaurs are intelligent. They're just still very tribalistic, like very, very tribalistic. You know, they're not that intelligent. Trolls are super unfortunate in this, or not trolls, ogres are super unfortunate in this one, which we'll get into with the ogre magi lore, I guess, if that happens. Trolls are an established thing. They all can like kind of heal. They have like really cool regenerative effects. But because of how they're raised, they're like mothers, they're like internet trolls. So when they wrote the lore on that one, I'm pretty sure they were being like funny with what a troll actually is, in which they all kind of live in their mother's basement until they're 30, and then they get kicked out, and then they're real mad about it. So they go around and they rape and pillage like a Viking until they settle down and they have kids and somebody kills them, and then their kids live in the mother's basement again for a long time. That's about that.
Gotcha.
So the neutral creeps, yeah, some are kind of intelligent. They have camps. Some of them have dens, you know. But they're not super important. There was a lore video I watched once upon a time about hellbears, which are like the red and yellow creeps that you'll see in the
Bird ones?
jungle. No, not the bird ones. They're like kind of look like little hulking creatures.
Oh,
There's always
yeah.
a big red one and a small yellow one. Yeah, those are hellbears. There is an idea that basically the dude that turned lichen into a wolf, he was King Quasimodo or some shit, and he was obsessed with the control and transformation of animals. And Ursa, which, you know, Ursine, he's a bear. Ursa is just bear. Ursa cubs were changed by him into hellbears. And that's one of the reasons that, like, Ursa is out there fucking in the war, is because he's real pissed that somebody keeps kidnapping Ursa cubs and turning them into hellbears.
Gotcha. Okay, where does Roshan fit into all that?
Right. Okay. So that's a good question. So in the world of Dota, basically you have the shopkeepers, right? But they're not very similar to how shopkeepers are here. It's not just like, oh, I want to open a shop and all that. The shopkeepers are almost divine entities in Dota, in which basically, because magic exists in the world, items of power kept being created and being made and all that, and then legends would die, and wars would continually be fought over these items of power. All the items that a shopkeeper has are ridiculously powerful. It's one of the reasons that you have creeps and then you have heroes, is it's a concept that, like, a lot of people can't even wield those items, which is why heroes can buy items and not vice versa. Basically, all of the gods and all of the powerful influences in the Dota universe got together and said, we can't have all of our followers fighting over these items of power to try and destroy each other, because we'll eventually have no followers left. Like, nobody will, because they'll all die. So they took all the items of power and they selected several people to be shopkeepers. These people are protected divinely, and anyone can go and they can basically kill somebody in the name of their god. Doing like favors for their god will get them coins, which is not, to my knowledge, the primary currency of the universe. It's just the primary currency of the game. And these coins can be used to purchase items of power from the shopkeep. And so you can go and you can do more stuff for your god. Basically, it consolidated all of the power into a situation where it's going to constantly recycle. Anybody who buys an item of power typically doesn't live long, because other people will begin to covet that item, and then they'll die, and the shopkeeper comes in and he picks up his old item and is like, great, thanks, and he brings it back to his collection of items and so on and so forth. Roshan is an unknown creature that managed to not only steal from, but also murder a shopkeeper. So the gods, because the shopkeepers are protected divinely, basically gave him a taste of hell, in which the item that he stole was the Aegis of the Immortal. It used to be purchasable at the shopkeeper's shop.
Was it really?
Yeah, actually, I think at one point it was. I think it was like a purchasable thing. I'm not sold on that. That was way long ago, and the little one at the time that I wouldn't have played, but I'm pretty sure it used to be purchasable from the shop. The lore behind it is that he essentially stole it, and because you murdered the shopkeeper, they embedded it into his skull. And then they magically enchanted this den where he could never leave. The reason being is because people want these items of power, and they don't have to have gold to get it. He will be killed over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and because it's the Aegis of immortality, he's going to always be brought back to life. So that's kind of his prison sentence, so to speak. You know, is you can't you can't die, and people are going to murder you for the rest of the time, which kind of sucks. But that's also why he's fucking jacked and huge, and he's got all these spears in him and shit. Is theoretically at some time he was not that way, and it's just been literally thousands of years of people trying to kill him, and he's gotten quite adept at trying to not die. So yeah, that's Roshan. There's a lot of theories out there that think that Roshan is actually kind of controlled by the Dire, rather that the Dire is taking pity on him, because control is not really the Dire's thing, and he's being forced to stay there, and freedom is the Dire's thing. So that's why the Roche pit is all dire looking, is the Dire's kind of trying to break Roche out, because it's also would be super chaotic to have an immortal beast roaming the lands, just fucking up everyone's day. Sounds very aligned with Dire shit.
Gotcha. take a break so I can take a nap.
Yeah, this has been part 1 of the Dota 2. We're just gonna call this I Don't Know the Lore of Dota 2.